Black-Eyed Kids. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Tonight I'm going to be telling you two different stories about black-eyed kids. Now let's jump into the first story. You're probably all familiar with this classic tale by now. It's one of the most popular ones in the Black-Eyed Kids lore. It's been told hundreds of times over the years, and there's tons of videos about it on YouTube. But I'm going to tell it to you anyway because it is such a good story. It's about a woman who was babysitting her niece and nephew. She was watching them in the living room when she heard them start arguing with each other. They were saying things like, "I want some candy," and "No, you can't have any candy." And their aunt said that maybe they should go trick-or-treating. But it was 6 o'clock at night, and their parents had explicitly said no trick-or-treating after 5:30. So she decided that she would just give them candy instead. As she went to get the candy from the cupboard, she heard a knock at the door. She thought it was strange since nobody ever came to their house unexpectedly. When she opened the door, there were two children standing on her doorstep. The boy was wearing a Dracula costume, and the girl was dressed as a witch, and both of them were holding out their pumpkins for her to fill up with candy. She asked them if they were lost or something, because their houses looked really close, but they said that they just wanted candy. Still suspicious, she threw in a few pieces of candy and shut the door. A moment later, she heard a loud crash, and then their argument started up again. So she opened the door and asked what had happened. The boy said, "You didn't give us enough candy," and the girl added, "And we want more." She was kind of annoyed at this point, so she grabbed a handful of candy and shoved it in the girl's pumpkin and slammed the door. That's when she started to hear screams. She ran to the window and saw those same two kids screaming and clawing at the glass. The little girl was scratching at the window so hard that her little hands were bleeding. Then they stopped and stared directly at her through the window. Their eyes seemed to glow an unnatural red in the darkness. Terrified, she called the police while hiding in her closet. When the officers arrived, they found the two kids outside the house sitting on the steps with big smiles on their faces. When they asked the neighbors if they had seen the kids around, they said, "Those kids have never lived here and we don't know who they are." The police brought the kids in for questioning, but they weren't sure where to take them because nobody knew who they were or where they lived. So eventually, they let the woman who had witnessed all of this take them home. She drove them around looking for a house that matched the description of where they lived, but they said they didn't live anywhere around there. They kept riding around until they were deep in the countryside, and the girl said, "Here we are," and pointed to an abandoned farmhouse. The police looked at each other confused and then drove back home. They couldn't figure out where these kids lived, so they dropped them back off at the woman's house. She was furious by this point and yelled at them, "If you aren't going to tell me where you live, then at least tell me your names." But they refused. They just sat there smiling at her. Eventually, she gave up and took them home. When they arrived, the little girl looked back at her and said, "Thanks for the candy," and then they disappeared inside the farmhouse. The woman never saw them again, but she still wonders to this day who they were. Okay, now let's move on to the second story. Lost at Sea. A man was driving down a dark road late one night when he suddenly had a flat tire. He pulled over and started changing his tire, but it was so dark that he couldn't see anything. Just as he was finishing up, though, he noticed two glowing orbs in the darkness across the road from him. At first he thought they might be headlights, but there wasn't anyone else on this road for miles and miles. Curiosity got the better of him, and he walked over to investigate. As he got closer, he could see that the light was coming from two children who were standing in the middle of the road. They didn't seem to be doing anything. They were just standing there staring into the distance. Concerned that they might be lost or something, he asked them, "Hey, do you guys need any help?" Startled, the kids turned around and looked at him. He noticed that they were both wearing raincoats, despite the fact that it was a clear night and not a single cloud was in the sky. It was just pitch black, but somehow these kids were prepared for it. He asked them if they were lost or something, but instead of answering, they just stared at him silently for a moment. Then the boy spoke up and said, "We're waiting for someone. He asked them who they were waiting for, but they just kept silent. He could see that both of their faces were pale and their eyes were completely black. It was like staring into two bottomless pits. He felt a sudden surge of fear come over him, and he started backing away. The boy and the girl both took a step forward, and he started to run. He didn't know why he was running, but his feet moved faster than his brain could process what was happening. He could hear the sound of his own breathing in his ears and the pounding of his heart in his chest. As he ran, he could feel their eyes burning into his back. He didn't dare look back to see if they were following him, though, because he knew that if he did, whatever power they had over him would only grow stronger. He ran until he reached his car, and then he got inside and locked the doors. He could still feel their eyes boring into him, but now there was a barrier between him and whatever it was that they were. He started the engine and slammed his foot on the gas, speeding away as fast as he could. He didn't stop driving until he reached a brightly lit gas station. When he finally looked back, the two kids were gone. He never saw them again, but to this day, he still wonders who they were and what they wanted. Well, that's all the scary stories I have for you today. Now I'm going to leave you with a couple more questions. Do you believe in black-eyed kids? Have you ever seen any yourself? And if you have, did you get away safely? Let me know in the comments below. Also, before you go, please like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.